I think the proponents are going to say, look, here's the primary purpose. If I've got the 10 commandments on a wall in a classroom, and one of the commandments is do a bunch of good stuff, right? Don't steal, don't covet. There's certainly secular purpose to all of those things in the 10 commandments. So that's the idea, I think.
Couldn't we just put positive posters on the wall like we have that say, be kind, respect your friends, keep your hands to yourself? All the things we do see, that seems a bit pretextual, if I'm being honest.
Welcome to episode 83 of the Weekly Docket, Silberman Law Firm podcast. Today is August 15th, 2025. I'm Phil Silberman, owner of the firm and your host, and I'm joined by Chris Heald, who's the firm's supervising attorney. Chris, Ohio State versus my Longhorns. What do you think?
I know nothing about college football this year, except I understand that Texas is actually the underdog, which is surprising to many people.
The only time, I think, since we've kept records that the number one team in college football is actually not favored to win their home opener.
It's usually more than the people putting out rankings, so maybe we go with that.
Yeah. At Ohio State, okay, I just checked. The cheapest ticket in the house is like $400, and decent seats are about $2,300 a pop. Too rich for my blood this early in the season, but
be a cool venue to visit at some point.
It would. All right, let's talk about what's on our dock today. And we're talking about some back to school stuff. It's back to school week, and we've got the 10 commandments in Texas schools because of a new law. So, thou shalt place the 10 commandments in all of your schools.
Wasn't this a debate when we were in middle school? Did these things ever go away?
I went to middle school in Cypress, Texas. You had 10 commandments and Jesus everywhere. All right, legal question section. We're going to talk about what civil lawyers can do when our clients get ripped off, when someone steals from our clients, what remedies, what's available to us on the civil side of the law. And then finally, in our rant and rave section, what we can do under the rules of professional conduct. When they do steal things, can we threaten to get them locked up? Or is that a big no-no? All right, let's go ahead and get kicked off in our legal news section. 10 commandments in schools. Chris, do you like the 10 commandments?
If ever there were a loaded question, wow. Do I like that? Yes, I like the 10 commandments. I do my best to follow.
Even if you're a secular person and you espouse Judeo-Christian values, as offensive as the term Judeo-Christian might be, I think everyone would argue that the 10 commandments is a very, very good thing. Favorite one as an attorney is thou shalt not bear false witness. Chris, I know that you've never had a witness bearing falsely on a stand, right?
I certainly hope not knowingly.
Yeah. Look, here's what's going on. There was a new law. You've got to place the 10 commandments in the school. It's a framed copy, 16 by 20 inches in size. The school districts don't have to buy them. They can be donated by people. And of course, in the Bible Belt like Texas, everybody's donating the 10 commandments to the school district, and they're having to put them up. First Amendment challenge here, Chris, it's the Establishment Clause. It's going to be challenged, okay, on the grounds that it violates the Establishment Clause, which prohibits the government from making any law respecting an establishment of religion. Opponents argue it's a clear endorsement of a specific religious text. What say you, Mr. Heald?
I doubt it rises to that level. I like that you're actually citing the First Amendment, because a lot of times people use the term separation of church and state, which I think is a horrible term. I don't think it's accurate. I think it gained traction and people just started using it without really regard to whether it's accurate, and I don't think it is. Fine with schools doing it. Again, is it probably a silly fight? Yes. Should we just let schools do it if they want and not make them if they don't want? I'll go on about worrying about more important issues, but like I said, this is the debate we got. We're always going to have this debate. Our kids are going to have this debate. It is what it is.
I'm not sure it's going to convert anybody by sticking 10 commandments on a wall. If it were that easy, then I guess we'd be doing it all over the place. But religious beliefs, it doesn't help a diverse student body, including students of different faiths or no faiths at all. That's what the opponents are arguing. There is this test, okay? It's called the lemon test. Nothing to do with lemons or lemon law. It was a 1971 case, and it's a historical test to determine if the law violates the Establishment Clause. And for a law to be constitutional under this text, it has to have a secular purpose. Its primary effect must not be to advance or inhibit religion. So I think the proponents are going to say, look, here's the primary purpose. If I've got the 10 commandments on a wall in a classroom, and one of the commandments is don't do a bunch of good stuff, right? Don't steal, don't covet. There's certainly secular purpose to all of those things in the 10 commandments. So that's the idea, I think.
Couldn't we just put positive posters on the wall like we have that say, be kind, respect your friends, keep your hands to yourself? All the things we do see, that seems a bit pretextual, if I'm being honest.
Chris and I both went to public schools. And when you go to a public school, at least in the 80s or 90s, there was a cheesy poster everywhere about something motivational. I like this. I like having the 10 commandments up. I don't know that it's going to serve much purpose as far as winning converts, but at least it's a recognition that we have standards and those values come from Judeo-Christian values, but not everyone is happy about this. School districts are now in a position where they've got to comply with it. They're acting like it's difficult to comply. I don't understand how it's difficult. If I go up to the schoolhouse and I donate some 10 commandment posters or interframed and it meets the requirements, I better see the janitor or the principal or whoever's going to do it nailing that thing up on the wall. Okay. So let's see how that comes out. Hopefully we're going to have the 10 commandments everywhere. And that brings us to our legal question section. So here's the question, Chris. If we're talking about civil action, let's say you've got a client. Usually what we're dealing with, Chris, is misappropriation of trade secrets, clients stealing stuff. That's a cause of action in itself in Texas. Let's just say you've got a client that had a tractor stolen from his property. And he says, yeah, I know who did it. My neighbor did it. And I want to hire you. What causes of action might come to mind, Chris?
Conversion, which means you have converted my property from me to you. It's the civil way of saying theft. There's also civil theft, where we just take the criminal statute and make a civil cause of action out of it.
Or Chris, you nailed it. That's why we buy the O'Connor's Causes of Action book every year, Chris, because I know you go home at night and you read all the causes of action, right? Elements of conversion. You owned it. Okay, you had legal possession of it. You were entitled to possess the property. I bought the tractor from the local John Deere dealer. It was on my property, and I was entitled to possess it. And the defendant, my neighbor, unlawfully and without my authorization, just drove it off into the night, exercising control over my tractor. That's conversion, right? It's a tort. I think it's a 2-year statute of limitations. And then, Chris, you mentioned we have the Texas Civil Theft Liability Act. That is available. It's codified, Chapter 134 of the Texas Civil Practice and Remedies Code. Elements of civil theft liability. To win under this law, you have to have damages. Obviously, you've got the tractor. Someone stole your tractor. It's an expensive tractor. That's damages. The term theft, Chris, as you accurately pointed out, it comes from the Texas Penal Code, which is the criminal side of law. We don't do that. We do the civil side. You can recover under the act.
What if it's like cattle? I know Texas is or at least at one point had some very specific laws about cattle rustling. Is it level?
Yeah, I don't know if it is in the Texas Civil Theft Liability Act, but there are some interesting laws on the books in Texas regarding horse thieving and rustling cattle. Yeah, I think it's still on the books. I'm not fact checking this. If you're walking around with wire cutters in your back pocket, I think that may be a crime in Texas because the idea is
I think that might have been almost punishable by death back in the day. You get caught rustling someone's cattle, that was a big deal.
Yeah, it really was. That is a big, it's someone's livelihood. You steal their horse, you're in big trouble. Now in Houston, I just leave my car unlocked because I'm tired of them breaking into it. I insure it. If you want it, take it. Okay. So you'd be doing me a favor. I'm sure there's an insurance adjuster out there that's going to listen to this
Yeah,
podcast after I have
you
my,
don't see that. That's
I'm gonna,
denial of claim immediate.
we're going to get my claim denied. Oh, if you would have locked that car. No, they're still going to get the car. You can get reasonable and necessary attorney's fees. And if you win under that, you can also get your money.
Assuming you still
what
have your money. Funny thing about thieves, they don't usually have a lot of
Well,
money, and once they take your money, they dispose of it pretty quickly.
I had when I was a younger man before I had kids, Chris. I had a Chevrolet Tahoe. I've had several Tahoes, and I would drive around. Here's what I had in my Tahoe at all times. I had my golf clubs. I had my tennis rackets. I had an air compressor for tubing, maybe some water skis. Okay, this is just how I rolled. This was what I liked to do before young children came along. And I parked the car out at my outside the office back when we still had offices. And sure enough, a crackhead broke into my car, broke the window. And the worst part of it is he cut himself getting into the car. I had so many things in my car that he was just taking forever to get them out. So he bled all over my tires. And my dad saw it. It's like, how long was the crackhead in your car to bleed that much all over the vehicle? So now I just leave the doors open. The good part of that story is, Chris, back then I had the Platinum American Express card, and I think I had recently bought some of those items, and Amex covered it. So that's a great little benefit. If you live
Nice.
in Houston, I recommend everybody get a credit card where if you buy new stuff, you can get it replaced. So I don't know if Amex is still doing that. I think some of the Chase Sapphire cards still do that. They're not paying us for this promotion, but
We've made reference on the show a couple times. I drive a 2015 Corolla. At the time we bought it, my wife bought one too. So we had black and white Corollas. We parked them in our driveway. And similar to your guy, I feel like this was his very first day on the job because he didn't have a jack. He didn't even have real cinder blocks. He had makeshift cinder blocks that he put under our cars, took every lug nut off of all 8 tires, and was having trouble getting any of the tires off. I went outside, I caught him. I said, "Get out of here." He said, "F you." He left, but my tires were all like jacked up on my car. I had no lug nuts, and he had his little 4-door sedan. I have no idea how he was going to put 8 tires in his 4-door sedan. And so it turned out it cost me a bunch of money to replace everything. It was more of a hassle to me, but it was just weird that this guy, first day on the criminal job, didn't know anything about jacking tires. And he must have been out there for 30 minutes before I caught him.
it was clearly amateur hour on. I think the worst part of that story is, Chris, you have some unusual sleeping habits just because I've known you for a while. You probably were like asleep, like after watching the second rerun of the Astros or something, how they aired it through the morning. And the guys, you're just soundly asleep as the guys. Did he have an air gun or he was out there with a.
He had nothing. He had already taken the lug nuts off, so I didn't see his tire iron. He had just, like, again, not even real cinder blocks, broken pieces of concrete that he was trying to under our cars and get the tires off.
Well, he didn't steal anything. You may have an action under for conversion of the lug nuts or theft of the lug nuts. Weren't you also at a convenience store or something and someone like snatched your wallet?
That did happen to me as well. And ever since then, I have changed my practice. When you put your credit card in, I put my credit card in with my right hand, and I just haphazardly hold my wallet in my left hand. And the kid just ran behind me, snatched my wallet, and ran out the door. So I don't anymore.
You need one. Remember in the 90s, we all had, I didn't have this, but people would have like chains from attaching the wallet. That's what you need. You need to walk around. You go to the courthouse and you're like, the judge is like, "Sir, why is there a chain coming out of your pocket?" "Judge, we live in such a dangerous place that this is how I protect my wallet from being stolen on the way to the courthouse." But yeah,
I do remember wallet chains.
that brings us to that could have sufficed for our rant and rave section, but we do actually have a different topic on our rant and rave section. My favorite part of the show, our rant and rave section, I think I've got like a subtitle here. I'll sue you, but I can't threaten to lock you up. Chris, Texas Disciplinary Rule of Professional Conduct 4.04 B1. And this is an interesting one. Let's start with the language of the rule. It says that a lawyer shall not present, these are professional rules of conduct for lawyers we have to follow. A lawyer shall not present, participate in presenting, or threaten to present criminal or disciplinary charges solely to gain an advantage in a civil matter. So, Chris, I'm going to set the facts up for you because this is probably what you normally get. Usually we're in a business dispute between two partners or whatever. One of the partners steals all the money out of the bank account. And the first thing the caller, your client, asks you, the guy that we would hopefully represent, the guy who did not steal the money, is, hey, I want the money back. Chris, call up, send him a nasty letter threatening to turn it over to the district attorney's office if he doesn't put the money back. What is your answer to that, Chris?
I cannot do that.
Okay. And can you flesh that out a little bit?
As you just read, you can't threaten criminal prosecution. One, it's not our cause. It is a public cause of action. It is for the DA to decide whether he wants to pursue it or not. But really, the rule doesn't want private citizens bargaining with criminal causes of action. So I can't make it look like I can bargain civilly and as part of the terms of that agreement, have criminal charges dropped. They just really don't want us doing that.
I think you've got the policy right. By the way, this is my least favorite rule of the rule of professional conduct. I think it's really messed up. For example, I had a guy, and I think I think it applies everywhere you are. I'm a Texas attorney, right? And I paid a guy $500 to install a chimney cap on my house in Massachusetts. He just stole the money. I really just wanted my money back. And I thought about, can I send him a letter that says, hey, if you don't threaten him, I'm going to turn this over to the DA, give me my $500 back. Technically, that can be a violation of the rule because I'm an attorney, even though I'm in the state of Massachusetts. Let me see if I can persuade you, though, Chris. Look at the rule, okay? It says, I'm going to read it again. You can't do it. Don't present, participate, or presenting to threaten to present, okay? Criminal or disciplinary charges. And I'm italicizing this, Chris, solely to gain an advantage in a civil matter. So I'm your client. I'm a little bit sophisticated because I got mad and I read the law. And I said, Mr. Hield, I want you to threaten the guy criminally to put the money back in my bank account. And we're not doing this solely to gain an advantage in the civil matter, Chris. There's a multitude of other reasons that we're threatening this with the district attorney's office. So go ahead and do it. What do you say to that? Do you like that argument, Chris?
I don't, because I'm the one sitting on the stand in front of the ethics committee. So you may be right, but I just don't feel like having to make that argument in front of them.
Yeah, that's right. We get into this a lot, Chris, and the other part of this that bothers me is the disciplinary component. Tell me if you like this one. We do a lot of TREC sort of licensing work, and sometimes we represent consumers that have been wronged by real estate agents, and these real estate agents have done really bad things, stolen money, right? And the question we always get, Chris, is, let's file a TREC complaint, threaten to file a TREC complaint to try to get my money back. Do you think this rule applies to that?
I don't think it applies to things like TREC complaints. Although again, I don't typically use it. I just tell the client, look, if you want to go file a TREC complaint, go file one. Just go do it. TREC will investigate. Depending on what happens, it may or may not have an effect on the civil suit. I don't think it applies, but by that same token, again, I don't like using it. I'm not going to use it as leverage. I'm going to tell them, go do it and see what happens.
Yeah, now I think that's right. Now, by the way, this is interesting, Chris, and I think you'd agree with this. There's nothing that prohibits the client or you as the lawyer from assisting with turning charges over to the DA or filing the TREC complaint, because the rule says threaten for civil advantage. You don't have to threaten anything. You can just call up and Chris, I would submit to you as the lawyer, I don't know what the intake process is over at the DA's office, but you as the lawyer, as the agent of the client, can probably call up and be like, hey, I want to file a police report on behalf of my client. They may take it. You're not threatening them. You're just doing it. So,
yeah.
Now, and that doesn't, you would agree that does not violate the rule.
No, I don't think so. Because again, like you said, you're doing it. You're not threatening it.
Yeah.
I think as far as most attorneys are willing to go, and most don't even want to go this far, is just to say, as this is a crime, and without any kind of threat or anything going from there, it's as you've broken the law and it is a crime. Now I'm going to pivot and start talking about civilly what's going to happen. So sometimes lawyers will throw that in, but it's about as far as people usually are willing to go.
Yeah, and I think I've seen some ethics opinions where attorneys have gotten in trouble even for that. I don't like the rule. I think it's a really bad thing. The policy here behind the rule is you want to maintain the integrity of the justice system, but you got some bad actors. Look, you've wronged me. We have the concept of restitution in criminal law, and I think it all works together. I think this is a stupid rule. I wish it would be revised or changed, but nobody really listens to me. Chris, I think that brings our show to a close, my friend.
All right. Well, hey,
I've been your host, Phil Silberman. Chris has been my co-host. Like us, follow us, review us wherever you get your podcast. And as a reminder, nothing in this show is to be considered legal advice, and this has all been for entertainment purposes only. If you have a legal question, email us at info@silblawfirm.com and tell us you want it publicly answered in the podcast. Everybody have a great weekend.